Is Auburn getting close to landing a five-star prospect? Let's see.
In the world full of podcasts, he's the undisputed heavyweight champion of hot takes, an Auburn sports homer, master of the boog, and message board legend. Get your buttons buttoned and your hats flattened because the Top Button Podcast is about to kick off. And you don't want to miss your courtside seat. Now, here's your host, Charlie Five.
Yes, sir. We're back. It's another episode of the Top Button Podcast. I'm your host, Kyle Rush, a.k.a. Charlie Five. We're ready to get after it. Happy Monday. Is Auburn getting ready to close on a five-star safety from the state of Mississippi? We'll talk about that in just a second. If you do land him, where does that put you as far as recruiting rankings go? And are you where you need to be before the season starts? And then I got to address, I know a lot of people have, but this Georgia Tech deal, this Auburn wishes they were Georgia Tech. Going to talk about that as well in just a second. But before we do that, let's give a quick shout out to Rowback.com. Back-to-back shows, got Rowback hoodies on. So got my Auburn licensed hoodie. They got a new Auburn licensed hoodie as well as a pullover and a polo ready for you to go. Use coupon code BARN20 to save big. Get your game day gear ready. And then if you don't want game day gear or you've already got it, they got a lot of other fun stuff too. So check it out. Show them some love. It's rowback.com. Auburn last night, yesterday, depending on when you caught it, started getting a lot of predictions to land Bralan Womack, which if you're a fan of the show, you've been listening to the show, we've been talking about this kid for quite some time. Felt like it was probably moving this way. I think his decision is the 21st, if I'm not mistaken, which is this week. So Steve Wiltfong jumped in, who's obviously the director of recruiting at On3, the Fong bomb. Typically when those happen, a commitment follows shortly thereafter. I think Jeffrey Lee from On3 as well put in a prediction. A lot of smoke, a lot of momentum headed in Auburn's direction here. He's a safety, 5'11", 195 pounds from Hartfield Academy in Flowood, Mississippi. If you're wondering where Flowood, Mississippi is if you could throw a dart to the dead center. I had to look this up because I'd never heard of it before. If you could throw a dart almost to the middle of Mississippi, it's basically right there above Jackson, right outside of Jackson. So good-looking prospect. I'm going to be completely honest, okay? I think about things, when I think about five stars, it's impossible not to think in terms of money, okay? It's impossible not to think in terms of how much this player is going to cost us and who you got to sacrifice more than likely to get somebody like this. And safety is not really the position that I would think Auburn would be in a good spot to spend a ton of money on, just off the top of my head. I mean, think about the depth chart. I mean, you got to fast forward a year, okay? You're going to have Anquan Fagans. You're going to have Eric Winters. You're going to have Caleb Harris again. You have any of the new guys you brought in that make a play safety. So it's like, man, that's a lot. More than likely, you're dedicating a ton of funds to locking up a safety who I'm not really sure like how quickly you're going to get that return. But then you go flip on the film. You go turn on the film. Just go look up his huddle. You can look his midseason highlights. You can look at his whole season highlights, and it's pretty clear why this kid is so coveted across the country. It's really clear why Ohio State wants this kid badly. Remember a couple of years ago when Auburn was in it for KJ Bolden? This guy is very similar, okay? If you look at his film, he can pretty much do anything. He is an elite level athlete, okay? He could play wide receiver. He could play running back. He could punt return. And he does all of that at an incredibly high level and plays defense. So he's one of those guys that, back in the day, you just tried to go get, you didn't care really what position they played. You just go get the best athlete and figure it out. More than likely, they're going to be able to find a spot. Definitely think this kid's going to be an elite safety at the next level, but he's just one that's elite, and you just want to get him on the roster. He's that good. I mean, last year he had 39 tackles, 8 interceptions on defense. Okay. Pretty solid season in and of itself. You put those numbers on paper and say, hey, would you like a safety that had these numbers? You're saying, count me in. 8 interceptions, just sits back there, lurks and picks them off. Yeah, I love that. But then you throw in offense. He had 54 catches, 1,045 yards, and 13 touchdowns. And he had a kickoff return for a touchdown and a punt return for a touchdown. So you couple all that together, you bundle all that together, and you got you a pretty daggone good athlete. Good size already. Again, right at 200 pounds. Probably play about that, or maybe a little bit over 200 pounds. Don't need him to get super bulky. I want Auburn, and I think there's a couple of guys that could fit that role on this roster, but man, I want that lurker back there. I want that guy that's an eraser. Like you put him back there, you may not even notice him, but he just shows up when the ball's thrown down the field and he makes a play. He just completely erases the deep ball. Like he takes it away from you. It's hard to even pinpoint really the last guy that when the ball's thrown down the field, you felt was good enough to track it and knock it down or pick it off. It's just, I think that element has kind of been missing from this defense for quite some time. We have a lot of safeties that play really good in front of them, very good run stopping safeties, but down the field, they get lost. They seem to get lost sometimes. And I think when you look at this kid, it seems like that's something he may even excel at. He does play at a little bit of a smaller classification, but again, look at the offers. Look at the offers. Ohio State, Texas A&M, Florida, Alabama. Ohio State does not – they can have whoever they want for the most part, except for Bralan Womack, it seems like. So they don't just willy-nilly go after kids. When they want somebody, they typically get them. And you can see based off the results on the field, they're typically pretty good players if Ohio State wants them. So if Auburn were to beat out Ohio State for this one, I mean, it means a ton. So like I said, even though he plays a little bit smaller classification, everybody wants this kid. And on top of that, I think he was Gatorade Player of the Year in the state of Mississippi. And then on top of that, they've started letting underclassmen participate in these All-American Bowl practices and even games at times. And I think I don't know exactly which one he's committed to playing to this year, but I know last year I think he had some practices in the Army-Navy All-American Bowl and just dominated. Everybody's like, oh my God, this kid's incredible. So even though he plays a smaller classification in high school, you put him with guys of elite caliber competing against elite talent, he still shines. So I think it's on 247 is player comps Caleb Downs, which he's pretty good. he's pretty solid. I think KJ Bolden. When I look at him, I see KJ Bolden. I just see a guy you just want on the field. He's going to get around the ball, and then maybe you could even mix in some packages on offense where he could come in and catch some passes out of the backfield or just be a distraction or whatever. He's an electric playmaker with the ball in his hands or defending. Doesn't matter. So be big if Auburn can land this guy. I would be very excited if Auburn could pull this one off. Where does that put Auburn in the rankings? We'll talk about that in just a second. We'll be back right after this. Let's talk rankings. Full disclosure, when I do this, when I talk about rankings, I typically always go to the 247 composite rankings, okay, which is where they take the average across everybody and the average across everybody, all the different sites, and come up with a composite ranking of all of them. And the reason I do that is because 247 also has a class calculator. So you can kind of plug in guys and compute it, add them to the class, and then you can kind of see where your total points come out to. So currently on the 247 composite, Auburn is somewhere in the mid 50s, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. If you add in Bralan Womack, you should jump up to, I'm looking at it right now, you should jump up to the mid 30s. So that's a pretty big jump, obviously. He is he's, I think, the number 16 player or something like that. He's a top 15 player, top 20 player in their composite ranking. So if Auburn gets him currently, I think they jump up to like 35th in the rankings. But that's not where I'm not so worried about that number. The class rank, like where you land in the class ranking. Let me tell you why. Because I keep reiterating this. I think this is going to be a small class. Currently, Auburn is behind Sacramento State. Okay, so Sacramento State is 53rd. Auburn is 54th. Sacramento State has 42 commits. Auburn has 12. So this would make, obviously, 13. Teams that have a lot more commits right now, it's a little bit of fool's gold. Like Boston College, they're at 36. They have 26 commits. So they have roughly double the amount of commits Auburn has. Their class could be basically finished, whereas Auburn's going to continue to add, and they're going to continue to add high caliber kids and continue to jump. So I'm a lot more interested in the average player ranking, okay, than I am the total class rank. Because I just don't know how high this class can climb with only being somewhere, if they only end up with 18 commits. I mean, Georgia has 31. USC has 32. Notre Dame has 27. Texas A&M has 27. So all these guys are just you basically get the way they compute your numbers is they only take like a top 20 or something like that. So every time you add one, if they jump the lowest player in that top 20, then your ranking, you have more people to choose from, I guess, to fill that ranking, to fill that number out. And Auburn obviously won't have that. But that's fine. Okay, I still think they can be a top 20, top 15 class easily with 16 to 18 players. But the average player ranking is interesting because Auburn's a top 20 class already. I think they're 19th if you look at the average player ranking. And this addition would shoot Auburn up even way higher because he's like a 99 rating or something like that. It's crazy. Auburn's average player ranking is like 89. So you add in a 99, that's going to shoot him up even more. So I'm really more concerned about quality than I am quantity here, especially considering it's going to be a smaller class. So I think that's going to be the key metric to look at to really judge this class is average player ranking, because I just don't think it's going to be that big. And it doesn't have to be big because you're not losing players to the portal and you're hitting on a lot of these kids. We talked about it last night. These classes, you're not just bringing in good classes, but you're hitting on them. Like they're able to be contributors. So when you're doing that, you have less attrition. I mean, think about it. If you add 25 kids a year for over 4 years, that's 100 players. You know what I mean? So like and if you're hitting on all of them, there's something's going to have to give at some point in time. And I think it's just going to be this class. That's fine. Have a smaller class. and then build it back, go get a big class when you need one. It's a numbers game. And I think, again, average player ranking is going to be the thing to look at when you compare it against your peers, pair it across your peers, because Auburn's bringing in some high-quality guys. You just brought in Jace Matthews. Now you're bringing in possibly Bralan Womack. That'd give you the number 2 and the number 6 kid in the country or in the state of Mississippi. And I think that would make it to where there's not one single player inside the top 10 that's going to Ole Miss. So maybe Lane should stop worrying about Hugh Freeze and fourth down play calling and start worrying about recruiting the state of Mississippi. So good stuff, man. I think this could be a big one for Auburn. It's going to go a really long way. And then again, right before kickoff, your mid-30s, you add 4 or 5 more guys, you'll jump up inside the top 20 easy, especially if it's some of the guys we've been talking about that are flip targets. So good stuff. Good stuff. Let's talk about this Georgia Tech comment. So I'm going to play the clip, and then we're going to talk about it. This is from 680 The Fan. I don't know this guy. Don't really care, but here's the clip.
Understood a couple of years ago when Jahmyr Gibbs went from Tech to Alabama. You understood that. You're going to Alabama. You're competing for a national title. Georgia Tech's better than Auburn right now. They are. Auburn fans, you can yell at me all you want. You're not. You wish you were Georgia Tech right now. You wish you had Haynes King and Jamal Haynes and some of the guys that you have. Now Auburn could potentially be good, but they're banking on a quarterback in Jackson Arnold. I think it was Jackson Arnold, who wasn't very good at Oklahoma, transferring there, and Eric Singleton. I don't get that transfer.
So when I heard this the first time, my mind goes, man, I mean, maybe. I mean, Georgia Tech was pretty good. Like that, I think they won like 8 or 9 games last year. Like they're headed in the right direction. So I go look in their record, and the last 2 years they were 7-6. So there's 3 games difference over the last 3 wins more in the ACC the last 2 years. Would you trade places with Georgia Tech? A lot of times people that do this for a living, like this guy, okay, they either know better. Let me back this up. They either know better and they're just trying to be inflammatory, or they have no clue what they're talking about. When you say Georgia Tech's better than Auburn right now, what you mean is Georgia Tech was better than Auburn last season. Okay? You can't say right now. You have no idea. And Georgia Tech Auburn has a vastly more talented roster right now than Georgia Tech. No, Auburn is not riding it all on the arm of Jackson Arnold. You have an offensive line that has a couple of NFL draft picks on it. You're not riding it all on Eric Singleton. No, you got a Cam Coleman in there. You got a Malcolm Simmons in there. You got a Perry Thompson. You got Horatio Fields. You got a whole wide receiver room that all of them would start at Georgia Tech. Okay, you got a defensive line that's got a NFL draft pick on it, first-round NFL draft pick on it. I think the whole defensive line probably could start at Georgia Tech. Maybe you could give me one interior defensive lineman. The defensive backs, I think all of the defensive backs will start at Georgia Tech. Again, I thought they were like this. In my mind, when I hear this, I was like, yeah, they did win like 8 or 9 games last year. I get it. But they ended up 7-6. Yeah, they did beat Miami. And they're getting a ton of mileage out of going into a bunch of overtimes with Georgia. But he mentioned it, Jahmyr Gibbs, Eric Singleton. Kids want to leave Georgia Tech. I'm sorry. I don't want to be that school. Auburn doesn't have any issues with their elite playmakers leaving and going elsewhere. No, Auburn does not want to be Georgia Tech ever. They definitely don't want to be Georgia Tech right now. Don't want to be Georgia Tech in the future. It's just not a thing. I don't even think that guy likes Georgia Tech. I just think he hates Auburn. Probably 680 The Fan in Atlanta, probably a Georgia fan. Probably just hates Auburn in general. But no, Auburn, the programs really aren't that comparable, especially over the last 10 years. I mean, they've been there. Believe it or not, it's a team that's been worse than Auburn up until the last 2 years over the last, decade. Yeah, that was a weird one. Weird hill to die on right there. Oh man, it's totally understand. I have no idea why Eric Singleton wouldn't want to go play in a Hugh Freeze offense that has had multiple NFL wide receivers produced. I don't get that. Why would he want to do that? People keep sleeping on Auburn, man. I'm telling you. I think this year's going to open up a lot of eyes. It could crash and burn, but I think they got a chance to be really good. They're very, 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 very talented. So we'll see what happens. But guys, I really appreciate it. Thanks for listening. It's another episode of the Top Button Podcast. Stay buttoned.
Thanks for listening, and drive home safely.